Saint Nocturne University. Chapter 6. For 6 seconds after Aya's name appeared on every phone, nobody in the chamber under Maxine's shop moved. The candles burned steady. The roots along the wall settled into silence. The silver bowl sat clear and innocent in the center of the table, as if it had not just helped rearrange property law, expose council corruption, and drag a dead sister back into the living world by notification. Zora stared at the image on her phone. A black glass tower downtown. A woman in red. A blurred face. Gold Baptiste beads around her wrist. Aya. Her sister. The word did not fit anywhere inside her. She had no memory to attach it to. No childhood fight over toys. No shared room. No birthdays. No hand-me-downs. No voice. No laugh. No smell of hair grease and cocoa butter and laundry detergent. Nothing except a photograph, a vision under a ritual table, and a name that had been stolen so completely even grief had not known where to stand. Aya. Beside her, Auntie Maxine made a sound that was not quite a sob. Mabel Baptiste, ghost, or ancestor or angry miracle, went still at the end of the table. For all her sharpness, for all the bite in her tongue and the power in her bones, she looked suddenly like an old woman seeing a door open after years of knocking. "Show me," Mabel said. Zora did not know who she was speaking to. The room answered anyway. Every candle flame leaned toward the silver bowl. The clear water darkened. The image from the shade room below shimmered across its surface, the blood court donor tower, tall and black against downtown Ashborne's stormlit skyline. The woman in red stood behind the glass. Her face was still blurred. But her hand was visible. Gold beads. Long fingers. A ring shaped like a tiny thorned crown. Malik inhaled sharply. Zora turned to him. He was staring at the ring. "What?" she asked. Malik's mouth tightened. Serafina answered first. "That is not blood court jewelry." Malik said, "It is now." Zora's eyes sharpened. "Meaning?" "The thorn crown ring belongs to the St. Crowne Private Council," Malik said. "Only family heads, senior heirs, and contracted assets wear it." "Contracted assets?" Imani repeated from near the stairs. Malik looked ashamed before he looked offended. "That's their term." Kiki let out a humorless laugh. "Y'all really wake up and choose villain vocabulary." Serafina looked at the bowl. "If she is wearing that ring, she is either bound to them or married into them," Seven said quietly. The room turned colder. Zora looked back at the blurred woman in the bowl. "No," she said. It came out flat. Not denial exactly. Refusal. Mabel's hands curled around the table edge. The roots beneath the floor creaked. Maxine stepped toward the bowl. "That can't be." Professor Graves' face was drawn tight. "Maxine." "No." Maxine shook her head. "No, Sana. We would have heard. We would have felt it. Would we?" Graves asked softly. The question landed like a slap. Maxine rounded on her. "Do not." Professor Graves did not step back. If she was renamed, rebound, and kept under council seal, even blood work could be redirected. Especially if a vampire house claimed her through contract. Zora's voice cut through them. "Stop talking about her like she's a missing file." Both women looked at her. Zora's hands shook, so she closed them into fists. She wanted to scream at Maxine. At Graves. At Mabel. At Malik. At every adult who had turned truth into a hallway of locked doors and then acted tired when the children started kicking. Instead, she looked at the bowl and asked the question that hurt worst. Is she alive? Mabel closed her eyes. The silver bowl rippled. The blurred woman lifted her head as if hearing the question through glass, storm, and years. For 1 second, the blur thinned. Not enough to reveal her whole face. Enough to show her mouth. She was smiling. Then the image cut out. Every phone in the chamber buzzed again. The shade room below posted one more line. Blood Court Gala starts in 1 hour. Invitation only. Too bad the city's already watching. Dre looked at his phone, then around the room. Is the gossip page threatening a vampire gala? Lila's eyes were already bright with calculation. Not threatening. Advertising. Andre Voss let out a low whistle. Tonight's donor gala. Malik turned. That's tonight. Andre looked at him. You got disowned emotionally and forgot your calendar. Malik ignored him. Serafina went pale in a quiet, controlled way. Zora noticed. What gala? Serafina tucked wet hair behind one ear with trembling fingers. Blood Court emergency fundraiser. It was supposed to be private. Families only. Council donors. Supernatural election money. Development firms. Scholarship patrons. Scholarship patrons, Lila repeated. The same ones using donor interviews. Serafina did not answer. She did not need to. Seven ran a hand over his face. Of course the second seal opens at a rich vampire fundraiser. Why would evil ever skip catering? Malik's jaw flexed. It's at Court Tower. Where Aya is, Zora said. Maxine stepped toward the stairs. We go now. Professor Graves grabbed her wrist again. This time Maxine yanked free before contact settled. Don't, Maxine said. You cannot storm Blood Court Tower with grieving blood and no plan. Maxine laughed, bitter and bright. Watch me. Mabel slammed a hand onto the table. The entire chamber cracked with sound. You will not run at the tower like you ran from the chapel, she said. Maxine froze. Mabel's eyes burned. Not again. The words struck Maxine so hard she seemed to lose breath. Zora looked between them. What does that mean? Maxine stared at her mother. Mama. No, Zora said. No more stopping right before the part that matters. Mabel did not look away from Maxine. The night Aya was taken, your aunt saved Nasir and left Aya behind because I told her to. Maxine's face broke open. That is not fair. No, Mabel said. It was not. But it is true. Zora felt the room tilt again. Nasir, near the stairs, went completely still. Maxine turned to Zora. I tried to get both. I swear to you. Zora's voice was small now, which made it worse. You chose him. Nasir flinched. Maxine shook her head, tears spilling now. I chose the child I could reach while they dragged me back. I chose the baby in my arms because if I dropped him, he was gone too. Zora looked at Nasir. He looked like he wanted to disappear. That complicated everything. She wanted a clean target. She wanted anger with one name on it. She wanted to hate someone without math. Instead, there was Nasir, who had been a baby wrapped in cloth. There was Aya, a little girl crying under a table. There was Maxine, young and bleeding. There was Mabel, dead and furious. There was a school with a basement. A council with records. A vampire house with rings. Zora turned away. 7 spoke carefully. The gala has guests, guards, wards, donors, council members, vampires who think laws are suggestions written for poor people. We need an entry point. Andre lifted one finger. I'm scheduled to DJ the after set. Everyone looked at him. Kiki frowned. You DJ every crime. Andre shrugged. Crime pays on time. Brielle, still near the stairs, said, I can get in as a performer. Andre glanced at her. Not with your name trending under memory violation. Brielle's face tightened. Nia looked down. Lila stepped in. No. Brielle goes because of that. Brielle looked at her sharply. Lila continued, already assembling the story out loud. If Blood Court is trying to control the narrative, they'll either bar her and look guilty or let her perform and use her as proof everything is fine. Either way, she gets inside. Brielle's eyes narrowed. You want me to walk into a room full of people who copied my voice and framed me? No, Lila said. I want you to walk into a room full of people who think you're too vain not to. The insult landed. Then Brielle smiled. It was not happy. It was useful. I hate that you understand my brand. I used to edit your captions. Juno shifted near the stairs. I can go in as staff. Brielle did not look at them. You can go in as somebody useful. Juno accepted that with a nod. Serafina took a slow breath. I have an invitation. Malik turned to her. You just burned a DuPont lean package in a root basement. Yes, she said. And my mother will assume I came to apologize for embarrassing the family. She'll punish you. Serafina's smile was thin. She already raised me. The room quieted for half a second. Then Dre said, I can get in through catering. Lila stared at him. Dre. What? You keep having secret access to everything. I work events. You're like the Underground Railroad for receipts. Do not call me that. Fair. Professor Graves looked around the room. We cannot send every student into Court Tower. Kiki lifted her hand. Define send. No. See, I hadn't even said the idea. You were about to say something involving a dance team distraction. Kiki lowered her hand. I hate being known. Imani turned to Taj. How many wolves can you get downtown without triggering Blood Court security? Taj looked surprised she had asked him. Then he recovered. Depends if you want seen or unseen. Unseen. 4. Maybe 6 if Rome stops breathing loud. Rome frowned. I breathe regular. Kiki patted his shoulder. Not under pressure, baby. Taj looked at Imani. Why ask me? Because you know how to move people through enemy territory. His eyes narrowed. That sounded like a compliment with a knife in it. It was. He nodded once. I'll take it. Professor Graves began assigning roles with the calm speed of someone who had spent years waiting for a night she hoped would not come. Malik, Serafina, Andre, and Brielle would enter through the front gala channels. Dre, Lila, and Juno would use catering and media access. Imani, Kiki, Taj, Rome, and 2 Howl House students would secure exits and watch for ward officers. Zora, 7, Maxine, and Professor Graves would enter through an old service tunnel beneath Court Tower, if Mabel could still remember where it opened. Mabel snorted. I remember where rich vampires hide doors. Memory is easy when Spite waters it. Nasir said nothing. Zora noticed. So did Professor Graves. You stay with me, Graves said to him. Nasir's eyes hardened. No. Nasir. No, he repeated. Everybody keeps assigning me to people. The room went quiet. He looked at Zora, then Maxine, then Malik, then the bowl where Aya had disappeared. I'm going because Aya was under that table with me. I'm going because my name keeps opening things. But I'm not going as someone's evidence. No one argued. Not even Professor Graves. Mabel nodded slowly. Good. Nasir looked at her. She smiled sadly. Took you long enough to sound like your mother. The storm above them eased just enough for footsteps to become audible in the shop overhead. Everyone froze. Maxine lifted one hand. The candles dimmed. A voice from upstairs called, Ashborne Emergency Services. We're checking businesses on the block. Dre whispered, human. Imani sniffed the air. Her eyes narrowed. No. Another voice called, Ma'am, if anyone is inside, come out slowly. Mabel's face hardened. Council cleanup. Professor Graves blew out her blue candle. The chamber went black except for the silver bowl. Maxine whispered, back way. The roots behind the table parted, revealing a narrow tunnel. Kiki stared. How many secret exits does this shop have? Maxine said, I'm black and self-employed in a supernatural city. Enough. They moved. Behind them, the staircase door burst open. Red light spilled down from the shop. A voice shouted, clear. Ward officers descended, real ones this time, boots muddy, batons lit with binding sigils. The chamber was empty except for one thing. Caleb Mercer stood in the center, holding the silver bowl with both hands. He looked like he might throw up. The lead officer aimed a baton at him. Where are they? Caleb swallowed. Then, with the most courage anyone had ever seen from him, he said, who? The baton struck him in the chest. He collapsed. But the bowl did not break. In the tunnel, Lila heard the impact and turned. Dre caught her arm. We can't, he whispered. Her face twisted. We can't, he said again, hating it. They kept moving. Behind them, Caleb Mercer groaned on the floor of a root chamber, finally useful and far too late. Court Tower stood in downtown Ashborne like a blade someone had mistaken for architecture. 40 stories of black glass rose above the financial district, its windows reflecting the storm in fractured red streaks. At street level, velvet ropes stretched beneath a covered entrance. Human-facing security stood outside in suits, checking invitations with tablets that had somehow regained power. Behind them, supernatural security watched without blinking. The tower belonged on paper to a private investment consortium. Everyone who mattered knew Blood Court owned it. Tonight, the lobby glowed with chandelier light, champagne towers, white flowers, marble floors, and the soft violence of old money pretending to be charity. A banner near the entrance read, Ashborne Futures Fund. A private evening for education, safety, and civic stability. Underneath, in smaller letters. Sponsored by St. Crowne Holdings, Nightingale Trust, DuPont Family Office, and Voss Capital. Lila took one look from the catering van and muttered, civic stability my ass. Dre adjusted his borrowed catering jacket. Careful. Marble hears class resentment. Good. Juno sat between them in the back of the van, already changing. Their face softened, then sharpened, settling into that of a catering assistant from earlier whose badge they had borrowed by flirting, apologizing, and briefly becoming his supervisor. Brielle had refused to look at them during the ride. Now she stood outside the van in a black performance gown Andre had somehow produced from a garment bag in his trunk. Her gold shells had been replaced with dark red beads. Her makeup was perfect again, but her eyes had changed. She looked less like she wanted to be adored. More like she wanted to survive being watched. Andre adjusted one of his equipment cases. "You ready?" "No. That's honest. It's temporary." He smiled faintly. There she is. A black car pulled up to the entrance. Malik stepped out first. Serafina followed, transformed. At the root chamber, she had looked like a young woman in wet clothes with a pen and a shaking hand. Here, under the tower lights, she became DuPont again. Red lips. Chin high. Dress immaculate despite the storm, because money either fixed things or hid the parts it broke. Her mother waited at the top of the steps. Mrs. Vivian DuPont was tall, elegant, and terrifying in the specific way of women who could complement your posture while destroying your future. Her locks were swept into a silver-streaked updo. Diamonds circled her throat. Her smile warmed when she saw her daughter and cooled when she saw Malik. "Serafina," she said. "You look nearly composed." Serafina kissed the air near her cheek. "Mother." Vivian touched her daughter's wrist. Serafina did not flinch, but Lila, watching from the catering entrance, saw the effort. Vivian's voice lowered. "We will discuss your little property tantrum after the gala." "I assumed. You embarrassed our family." Serafina smiled. "No, I diversified the shame." Vivian's eyes sharpened. Malik coughed into his hand. Vivian turned to him. "Malik. Your mother has been looking for you. I've been looking for myself. How college of you." Behind them, a second car arrived. Camille St. Crowne stepped out. The entrance seemed to reorganize around her. She wore black this time. No ivory. No softness. Her hair was pulled back, diamonds at her ears, red lipstick like a warning label. Her eyes moved over Malik, Serafina, the lobby, the guards, Andre's equipment, Brielle's gown, and the catering van in less than 3 seconds. She knew. Maybe not everything. Enough. Malik's shoulders tightened. Camille smiled. "Cousin. You brought guests." Andre rolled a speaker case past them. "I was booked, gorgeous." Camille did not look at him. "I rarely blame furniture for being placed." Andre placed a hand over his chest. That hurt because it was architectural. Brielle stepped into the light. For the first time, Camille's expression shifted. Only slightly. Recognition. Calculation. Annoyance. "Miss Laurent," Camille said. "Brave." Brielle smiled with all her teeth. "Booked." The word landed better than brave. Camille's eyes narrowed. Inside the tower, the gala was already moving. The lobby opened into a vast atrium with a glass ceiling that showed no sky, only swirling red clouds above the tower. A string quartet played near a fountain filled with dark water and white rose petals. Donors moved in clusters, vampires mostly, but not only. Root circle elders in tailored suits. Werewolf business leaders. Veilborn artists smiling too carefully. Council aides with pins shaped like silver keys. Human politicians who did not know exactly what kind of room they were in, only that the checks cleared. Above the atrium, balconies circled upward floor by floor. At the very top, behind glass, stood a red-lit ballroom. Court Tower seal. Zora saw it from across the street, hidden beneath the hood of Maxine's coat. The service tunnel had brought them up through a maintenance door behind a closed bank. Now she stood with 7, Maxine, Professor Graves, and Nasir in an alley slick with red rain, looking at the tower through a ward veil that made them appear to passing humans as a group of people waiting miserably for ride-share. 7 wiped rain from his cheek. I hate that it's beautiful. Zora said, you hate everything expensive that doesn't benefit you. I'm consistent. Professor Graves studied the tower. The second seal will be near the upper ballroom. Blood court seals prefer height. Of course they do, Maxine muttered. Even their curses need a penthouse. Nasir stared at the building. Zora noticed his silence. You remember something? He did not look at her. I remember glass. That's it? And someone singing on the other side. Zora thought of Aya behind the window. Her chest tightened. A black SUV pulled up near the loading entrance. 2 men got out first. Then a woman. Dean Nightingale. He wore a dark suit, no coat, no umbrella, rain striking him and sliding off like the weather knew better than to touch him. He entered through a side door without showing an invitation. Professor Graves' face hardened. Maxine whispered, he's going to the seal. Zora stepped forward. Maxine caught her arm. Zora looked down at her aunt's hand. Maxine released her immediately. I'm not stopping you, Maxine said. I'm asking you to go in smart. Zora's anger flickered. Not gone. Not close. But the difference mattered. How? Zora asked. 7 lifted a small badge from his pocket. Professor Graves stared. Is that a court tower maintenance badge? 7 looked offended. Obviously not. Zora squinted. It says Brandt. It is Brandt's maintenance badge. Who is Brandt? Someone who should not leave jackets unattended during emergencies. Professor Graves pinched the bridge of her nose. Maxine muttered, I knew I should have put salt on you. Nasir took the badge from 7 and walked toward the loading entrance. 7 blinked. That was my plan. Nasir did not turn. Walk faster. They entered Court Tower through the service side while the gala swallowed everyone else whole. In the atrium, Brielle waited behind the performance curtain, hands clasped, listening to donors praise youth initiatives with the dead-eyed rhythm of people who considered young people investments until they became witnesses. André sat up near the quartet, pretending to troubleshoot sound while sliding one of his black drives into the tower's audio board. Lila moved among the catering staff with a tray of tiny pastries and a press recorder hidden under a napkin. Dre poured champagne for people whose conversations turned uglier when they forgot he was standing there. Juno, wearing the borrowed face of the catering assistant, slipped into a staff corridor. They had nearly reached the elevators when someone grabbed their arm. Not hard. Worse. Familiarly. Wrong face, said a woman's voice. Juno turned. Camille St. Crowne stood in the corridor's shadow. Juno's borrowed face stayed steady, but their real fear broke through the eyes. Camille smiled. That's always the problem with shapeshifters. You mistake resemblance for access. Juno swallowed. I'm working. No. You are repaying poor judgment. I didn't know what the job was. Most tools don't. That hit. Juno's face flickered, almost losing the borrowed shape. Camille stepped closer. Tell Brielle Laurent to stop digging. Juno lifted their chin. Tell her yourself. I did. She mistook survival advice for intimidation. Probably because you're intimidating. That was generous of her. Camille released Juno's arm and slid something into their palm. A small red card. Juno looked down. A room number. 40-7. Camille said, the person who paid you is upstairs. Juno looked up sharply. Why would you tell me that? Camille's smile returned. Because betrayal is only satisfying when everyone has options. She walked away. Juno stood alone in the corridor, holding the card like it might bite. In the ballroom above, Nia Baptiste watched her own reflection in the glass. Her face was no longer blurred here. She looked like a Baptiste woman. That was the first dangerous thing. Her skin was deep brown, her cheekbones sharp, her eyes dark and steady under long lashes. Her hair was twisted up, threaded with gold beads at the ends. The red dress she wore was elegant, structured, expensive, with a high neckline and long sleeves that made the exposed beads around her wrist feel deliberate rather than decorative. Around one finger sat the thorned crown ring. Behind her, blood court elders moved through the ballroom in careful orbit. They did not crowd her. They did not ignore her either. They treated her like a locked weapon. She preferred that to pity. At the center of the ballroom, a circular black table had been set with 4 empty chairs and 1 silver bowl filled with dark wine. The walls held portraits of Saint Crowne ancestors, all beautiful, all cold, all looking toward the table as if waiting for supper to scream. Nia touched the glass. Below, Ashborne flickered between darkness and red emergency light. The market district glowed gold now. So they had closed the first seal. She smiled despite herself. Something pleases you. Dean Nightingale stood behind her. Nia did not turn. The city has not learned how to stay eaten. It rarely does. You sound annoyed. I sound experienced. She faced him then. Lucien Nightingale studied her in silence. There had been a time, years ago, when she feared him with the full simplicity of a child. Then a time when she hated him. Then a time when she understood he was not the only monster in the room, which was adulthood in its least poetic form. Now she mostly watched him. You should have left me buried, she said. I did not bury you. No. You filed me. His face did not change. Nia laughed softly. Still sensitive about language. The court tower seal opened because the market route refused transfer. We have little time. You are tied to this seal. I am tied to many things against my will. Be specific. Lucien moved toward the black table. Blood Court believes you can stabilize the second anchor. Blood Court believes owning a thing is the same as understanding it. And what do you believe? Nia's eyes moved to the silver bowl. The dark wine inside reflected a little girl under a ritual table, crying beside a baby who would not stop reaching for her fingers. Her jaw tightened. I believe my sister just learned my name. Lucien's voice lowered. That complicates matters. Nia looked at him. No, she said. It clarifies them. In the atrium below, the gala had reached the speech portion, which meant every person trapped inside started lying with microphones. Mrs. Vivian Dupont spoke first about civic responsibility. Lila nearly dropped her tray from pure disgust. Then a Voss Capital representative spoke about protecting vulnerable communities through strategic investment. Dre poured champagne behind him and wrote the phrase "protecting vulnerable communities equals buying debt" in his notepad without looking down. Then Malik's mother, Celia St. Crowne, stepped onto the stage. She was beautiful in a way that felt unfairly inherited. Her dress was midnight blue, her hair cut short and silver at the temples, her smile warm enough to make people forget warmth could be trained. Malik stiffened beside Serafina. Celia touched the microphone. "Tonight," she said, "we gather during uncertainty. The readout has frightened many. Rumors have spread. Young people, as they often do, have mistaken fragments for truth." Serafina whispered, "Here we go." Malik's face hardened. Celia continued. "But Blood Court has always understood what others forget. Stability requires sacrifice. Leadership requires discretion. And legacy requires the courage to make decisions the unprepared will resent." Andre, at the soundboard, muttered, "That is a villain toast." Brielle stood behind the curtain, hearing the words through the speakers. Her performance was next. Her hands were no longer shaking. That was not calm. That was anger finally finding rhythm. Celia lifted a glass. "To Ashborne's future." The donors raised theirs. Brielle stepped through the curtain before her introduction. The room turned. Celia's smile froze. Brielle walked to the microphone like she had been called by God, spite, and a booking contract. "Good evening," she said. Her voice moved through the atrium, amplified but restrained. No magic yet. Just her. A murmur went through the room. Celia's eyes narrowed. Brielle smiled at the donors. "I was asked to perform something uplifting tonight." Andre looked up from the soundboard. Lila stopped moving. Dre turned slightly, champagne bottle in hand. Brielle continued. "But given the evening, I thought we might start with something honest." Celia stepped toward the stage. "Miss Laurent." Andre hit a switch. The microphones locked. Not off. On. Every microphone in the atrium, every speaker, every hidden recording charm in Andre's equipment opened at once. Brielle inhaled. She did not sing. She spoke. "At last night's Blood Moon mixer, my voice was copied and used in a memory suppression event involving student Nia Bellamy. I did not consent to that use. Nia did not consent to what was done to her. Juno Price was hired to impersonate me through an anonymous donor portal. That donor is connected to this building." The atrium erupted. Celia turned to security. The security guards moved toward Brielle. Then Howl House entered through 3 side doors at once. Imani came first, jacket glowing silver, Kiki at her side, Taj and Rome behind her with 4 wolves from the service perimeter. They did not attack. They simply stood between security and the stage. Kiki smiled at a guard. "Touch the performer and we unionize the violence." The guard hesitated. Brielle looked at Nia, who stood near Lila by the catering entrance. Nia had not wanted to come inside. She had come anyway. Brielle's voice softened. "Nia, I won't speak for you." Nia stared at her. For a moment, the entire gala seemed to wait. Then Nia stepped forward. Lila tried to follow. Nia shook her head. This part, at least, she would walk alone. She took the microphone Brielle held out. Her hand shook. Her voice did too. "My memory was taken," she said. "Not because of a supernatural emergency. Not because I was dangerous. Because I saw something in a room I was not supposed to know existed." Donors whispered. Council aides moved toward exits and found them blocked by Howl House students who looked far too pleased with the assignment. Nia lifted her chin. "I remember Camille St. Crowne. The room went still. At the top balcony, Camille rested both hands on the railing and smiled. Not denial. Applause. Slow, mocking, elegant. People looked up. Camille's voice carried without a microphone. Beautifully delivered. Malik stepped into the center of the atrium. Come down. Camille's eyes moved to him. You always did mistake proximity for courage. Funny, he said. You mistake cruelty for competence. Several blood court elders reacted to that. Celia's face flashed with fury. Camille laughed. And now you speak like a boy who thinks public rebellion makes him clean. Malik looked around the atrium, at the donors, at the security, at his mother, at Serafina, at Brielle, at Nia, at the students who had carried the truth here like contraband. No, he said. It makes me late. That landed differently. Not heroic. Better. Honest enough to sting. The tower shook. Every glass of champagne turned black. From the upper ballroom, a bell rang. Court tower seal. Zora felt it in the service stairwell 6 floors below the top. She and Seven had been arguing with a locked door for 3 minutes while Nasir stood too quietly and Professor Graves whispered ward counters under her breath. Maxine's hands shook so badly she kept putting the wrong herbs into the wrong palm. Zora noticed. Pretended not to. Then the tower bell rang, and every stair light went red. Seven looked up. We're out of time. Zora stared at the door. It had no handle. Only a flat black panel carved with a thorn crown. Malik's ring, she said. Nasir turned. He took it off. And left it with you? Seven asked. No. Then that observation was emotionally useful but practically rude. Zora stepped closer to the panel. The gold flame from the candle Professor Graves had given her had gone out somewhere in the tunnel, but smoke still curled from the wick. She pressed her palm to the thorn crown. Maxine grabbed her wrist too late. The panel cut Zora's skin. A thin line of blood welled beneath her palm. The door opened. Seven stared. I both love and hate when blood is a key. Professor Graves' face went tight. That door should not recognize Baptiste blood. Maxine whispered, unless Aya opened it first. They climbed. At the 40th floor, the service stairwell opened into a hallway lined with black mirrors. Every mirror reflected someone different. Zora saw herself at 5 years old holding the hand of a little girl she did not remember. Seven saw himself in a Saint Nocturne acceptance photo with the forged prophecy burning behind him. Maxine saw Aya being pulled from under the table. Professor Graves saw her own signature on the pact, fresh and wet. Nasir saw nothing. That scared him most. At the end of the hallway stood room 40-7. The door was already open. Juno stood outside it, holding Camille's red card. Their face was pale. Brielle came out of the elevator behind them, breathless, having escaped the atrium chaos with Andre's help. Did you find who paid you? Juno could not speak. Brielle pushed past them into the room. Then stopped. Room 40-7 was not a hotel room, office, or storage space. It was a gallery. Every wall was covered in portraits of students. Not painted from life. Painted from surveillance. Nia in the dining hall. Brielle on stage. Juno in theater makeup. Zora outside Magnolia Hall. Seven in the archive hallway. Imani on the track. Malik behind Holloway Gym. Nasir in the chapel. Talia with the bracelet. Caleb at the auction. Dre behind a catering table. Lila with her recorder hidden under her sleeve. There were dozens more. Students passing. Students crying. Students laughing. Students alone. At the center of the room sat a desk with a single open laptop. On the screen was the shade room below dashboard. Brielle stopped breathing. "No," she whispered. The page was logged in. Not to her burner account. To an admin account labeled Nocturne_system. 7 leaned in. "The school is posting." Professor Graves' face went white. Zora looked around the room. "The school has been watching everyone. Dre would have loved the receipts." No one said that out loud. Juno touched one portrait of themselves wearing Brielle's face. A payment record appeared beneath it. Donor portal request, performance study/identity replication. Funded by, Court Tower Cultural Preservation Fund. Authorized by, CST Crowne. Observed by, Nocturne_system. Brielle's eyes filled. Juno whispered, "I'm sorry." This time, Brielle did not answer with a blade. She looked too tired. Then the laptop screen changed. A live feed appeared. The upper ballroom. Aya in red. Dean Nightingale beside her. The black ritual table. The silver bowl. And Camille entering through the ballroom doors. Zora turned and ran. The upper ballroom doors opened before she touched them. Music spilled out. Not the quartet downstairs. A waltz, slow and old, played by no visible instruments. Aya stood across the room in front of the glass wall, red dress bright against black city sky. Zora stopped. The world narrowed. The woman turned. No blur now. No distance. Nia Baptiste looked at Zora, and whatever mask she had been wearing cracked. Not fully. Enough. Zora could not speak. Neither could Aya. Maxine reached the doorway behind Zora and covered her mouth. Mabel did not appear, but every gold bead on Aya's wrist lit one by one, as if an ancestor had entered the room through jewelry. Dean Nightingale stood near the black table. Camille stood beside him. Celia St. Crowne waited at the opposite end with several blood court elders. A silver bowl filled with black wine sat at the center. The court tower seal glowed beneath it, a thorned crown wrapped around a root. Aya looked from Zora to Maxine. "Auntie," she said. Maxine broke. She stepped forward, but Camille moved between them. "Touching," Camille said. "But reunions should respect seating." Nasir entered behind Professor Graves, and the seal flared so bright the glass walls went red. Aya's eyes found him. The room shifted. For 1 second, the years peeled away and he was a baby under a table, reaching for a little girl's fingers. Nasir whispered, "You." Aya's eyes filled. "You lived." Zora looked between them. Jealousy hit her so suddenly she hated herself for it. Nasir remembered her sister. Her sister remembered Nasir. Zora had been the one left with a clean story and no truth. The tower shook again. Dean Nightingale placed one hand on the black table. "The second seal requires stabilization," he said. "Blood court will not fall tonight because children confuse revelation with repair." Zora's voice finally returned. "You keep calling us children because you're scared to say victims." Lucienne's eyes moved to her. Aya's mouth curved slightly. Camille noticed. So did Zora. Camille stepped toward the bowl. The court tower seal feeds on bloodline hierarchy. Contracted loyalty. Desire for protection through ownership. To close it, someone must refuse the crown. Malik entered behind them, breathless from the stairs, Serafina close behind. Celia St. Crowne looked at her son like he was a stain on a family portrait. Malik, she said. He looked at the bowl, then at Aya's ring, then at Camille. What did you bind her to? Celia answered. Survival. Aya laughed softly. They do love that word. Camille's eyes stayed on Malik. The seal can be stabilized if Aya accepts formal court protection under Saint Crowne authority. Zora stepped forward. No. Camille smiled. You learned her name an hour ago. And you learned nothing from Nia. The room chilled. Camille's smile vanished. Nia entered then. Nobody expected her. She stood in the doorway with Lila, Brielle, Juno, Dre, Imani, Kiki, Taj, Andre, and half the night's bad decisions behind her. Her voice shook, but she spoke. You don't get to use protection after taking choice. The seal pulsed. Aya looked at Nia. Something passed between them. Not recognition. Understanding. Celia St. Crowne lifted her chin. This is absurd. Blood Court does not answer to traumatized undergraduates. Serafina moved before Malik did. She stepped into the room, red dress still damp at the hem from the storm, and faced Celia. No, she said. But apparently it answers to documents. Vivian Dupont entered behind her daughter, having followed the chaos up from the gala. Serafina, she said sharply. Serafina did not turn. I released Dupont's market liens, she said. The elders murmured. Vivian's face went cold. I know. I can do more. Not if I revoke your authority. You can't revoke what I already executed. Vivian's smile hardened. You think paperwork makes you free? Serafina looked at the thorned crown seal. No, she said. I think refusal starts somewhere. The seal flickered. Camille's eyes sharpened. Professor Graves whispered, there. Seven leaned toward Zora. Court seal wants hierarchy refused by someone who benefits from it. Malik heard. So did Celia. His mother said, do not embarrass us further. Malik looked at her. For a moment, he was not charming. Not smooth. Not fake humble. Not the rich vampire boy people loved or hated depending on lighting. He looked young. Tired. Then he pulled the Saint Crowne crest ring from his pocket. Zora realized he must have taken it back before entering the tower. He held it up. Celia's voice turned dangerous. Malik. He placed the ring on the black table. I refuse Saint Crowne claim over Nia Baptiste, he said. The room shook. Camille stepped forward. You do not have authority. Malik looked at her. I refuse it over Nasir Voss. The seal cracked with red light. Celia moved toward him, but Serafina stepped into her path. Malik's voice strengthened. I refuse blood court protection where protection means ownership. I refuse family contracts made before consent. I refuse the right to inherit people. The thorned crown seal split down the center. Glass walls rattled. Camille snarled, finally losing elegance. You self-righteous little. Aya moved. She pulled the thorned crown ring from her finger. Blood welled where the metal had bitten into skin. Zora stepped forward instinctively. Aya looked at her. For the first time, sisters stood close enough to touch. Aya placed the ring beside Malik's on the table. I refuse the name they gave me, she said. The seal blazed. Celia hissed. Vivian DuPont backed away. Dean Nightingale's eyes darkened. Aya lifted her hand and snapped the gold Baptiste beads from her wrist. They scattered across the black table like little suns. "My name is Aya Baptiste," she said. "I was not adopted by blood court. I was not protected by Saint Crowne. I was not saved by the council. I was taken." The tower screamed. Every window in Court Tower lit red from the bottom floor to the top. In the atrium below, donors began panicking as their contracts appeared glowing on their skin. Feeding agreements. Scholarship debts. Property schemes. Political bribes. Memory waivers. Hidden bloodline claims. Andre's audio system caught everything. Lila's dead phone came back to life and started recording by itself. Dre's notepad flipped open and wrote names faster than ink should move. The court tower seal cracked open beneath the black table, and from inside came the sound of chains snapping. Camille lunged for Aya. Nasir intercepted her. Not violently. He caught her wrist. The second his hand touched her, Camille's memory seal flared visible. Nia screamed, "That's it?" The mark on Camille's wrist matched the charm used on Nia. The entire room saw. Camille tried to pull away. Nasir held on, eyes burning dark red and gold. For one breath, he looked like both Blood Court and Root Circle had stopped arguing inside him and chosen a target. Then he released her. Not mercy. Choice. Imani and Taj grabbed Camille before she recovered. Taj looked at Imani. Together. Imani nodded once. They forced Camille to her knees. Kiki whispered, "I know this is serious, but that visual fed me." Brielle, voice low, said, "Focus." "I am focused. On justice and composition." Camille laughed, breathless and furious, on her knees in front of half the students she had underestimated. "You think this ends anything?" she spat. "You closed a seal by making speeches in a room built by people who survived worse shame than this." Aya looked down at her. "No," she said. "We closed it by making the contracts visible." The black wine in the silver bowl turned clear. Just like in Maxine's shop. The thorn crown seal shattered into red sparks. Court Tower stopped shaking. Outside, downtown Ashborne flickered. The red line connecting the tower to Saint Nocturne snapped. Across the city, lights returned to several blocks at once. Phones buzzed. The shade room below posted immediately. Founder seal 2 closed. Court Tower refused the crown. Malik St Crowne finally did something without asking his family if it matched the brand. Aya Baptiste lives. Blood Court lied. Council lied. Everybody shocked except people with sense. But don't get comfortable. Seal 3 just opened at Howl Ground. And Taj Cross's name is on the access list. The room turned toward Taj. His face went blank. Imani let go of Camille slowly. Kiki looked from the phone to Taj. "Please tell me that is a different Taj Cross." Taj swallowed. For the first time since anyone had known him, he looked genuinely afraid. "It's not what it sounds like." Imani's laugh came out cold. "Funny," she said. "That's what guilty people keep saying right before it is exactly what it sounds like." Aya took one step toward Zora. Zora looked at her sister. The room was full of shattered power, exposed contracts, fallen vampires, broken seals, and the next scandal already clawing toward them from across the city. Aya reached for her hand. Zora let her. Only for a second. Only enough to know she was warm. Then Court Tower's ballroom doors slammed shut. The windows turned black. Dean Nightingale, who had not moved during the seal's collapse, looked toward the reflection in the glass. In it, Saint Nocturne University stood beneath a red sky. The campus gates were open. The chapel bell rang 3 times. Professor Graves whispered, "Lucien." He did not look at her. His reflection smiled before he did. 2 seals closed, he said quietly. 2 seals awakened. The floor beneath them pulsed once, deep as a heartbeat. At the bottom of the tower, the gala guests began screaming again. Not because of vampires. Because every mirror in Court Tower had turned toward the ballroom. And from every black surface, the same child's voice whispered. "Where is the wolf who sold the gate?"